Okay. All right. All right. I guess I'll chalk that welcome up to how inspiring this time has been, and also I feel like there's some like leftover energy from the room from the last session. So thank y'all for that warm welcome, and thank you to Gloria. So as Gloria said, my name is Marcus, and I work with an organization called Stoked. And Stoked is, as she said, a global design firm, and we work with organizations to help make them more human and more innovative. And so what that looks like is partnering with education programs, innovation programs, or culture programs, anywhere along that spectrum, and we'll drop in and come right alongside you and your organization to help you along the lines of making your organization more human, more innovative. So that's a little bit about what we're doing there. And Gloria did kind of give a little bit of my bio, so I'll be brief on this. But in the interest of us getting to know each other, my name, again, is Marcus. And I've spent the last 10 years leading branding and marketing at Reach Records. So if you don't know anything about Reach, usually when I throw out the name Lecrae, most people say, oh, I know that. Very, very fun time. My first job out of college, and pretty good time. You know, I really enjoyed that work. And then I found out about this thing called design thinking. And I had the opportunity for the last 3 years to coach out of Stanford's D School, consult with different organizations, and I fell madly in love with this work. And I transitioned into my new role as a director at Stoked, leading design and innovation programs. As Gloria said, 2019, a couple of friends and I started a coffee shop based in the West End of Atlanta, Portrait Coffee, and it caught us by surprise how successful it's been. Food and Wine magazine named it the best coffee roaster in Georgia. But that's just a fancy way of saying we're trying to reimagine specialty coffee, okay? And outside of all the business stuff, on Saturdays you can usually find me with my family either eating out, which is getting way too expensive in the city of Atlanta, or shopping and looking for vintage furniture or clothes with my wife. That's how we spend our time. So dropping in on Stoked and innovation, we'll throw around words like that. You probably heard that a lot this today, because that's what this time is all about. But basically at Stoked, that takes shape in just a few ways, and that means we believe in a few things. One of them being that innovation is a byproduct of great culture. So you all are here as organizational leaders, and I'm sure you found a great problem that needs a great solution. And I'm here to tell you from just work and lived experience that those innovations and those breakthroughs that you're after are gonna 100% be a byproduct of the culture that you create. So hopefully through our time together, we can talk a little bit about that, some behaviors and things. We'll beat that gong a number of times, but it's worth starting out and leading with. Secondly, design unlocks creativity. So by a show of hands, I want to see you all raise your hand if you would define yourself as creative. Okay, that's good. That's about like 80% of the room. That's good. Usually the numbers are a lot less, so I'm encouraged. But I want to tell you something, that number is actually closer to 100%. Everyone in here is creative. And so I told you my background is in music, right? So I spend a lot of time working with artists, and there's this thing that I found in the work, and it's that usually when we think about creativity, it takes up the same space in our brain when we think about art, right? And I just want to dispel something here to help you unlock your own creativity. That art has a lot to do with making things beautiful, but creativity has a lot to do with making new things. So if you're a leader of an organization, if you're a founder, if today you woke up and made breakfast, okay, you are creative. And the crux of our time together is going to be about how you can go back to your organization and unlock some creativity. And if all you do is go back and repeat that myth buster, you've done it. You can already consider yourself a success. And the last thing is that transformation begins with self-awareness. As leaders, if you can identify how you show up and find the ways that you showing up can be a little bit different to inspire creativity, not only will you be that much further ahead in creating and sustaining a successful organization, but you'll be able to look for those behaviors in others, which is a huge part of being able to encourage the behaviors within your organization that are actually going to up your organization's creative output. So those are just a couple of the shared beliefs that we have that hopefully through our time today, I can impart through you. All right, so quick story time. I'm gonna tell you about one of my favorite, we lost our signal. We're back. I'm gonna talk to you about one of my favorite innovators, Clive Campbell. Clive is a Jamaican immigrant who relocated to the United States somewhere before I was born. And around the early 70s, he started to experiment. I'm getting some head nods, so some people in here kind of know where I'm going with this. Well, Clive started to experiment with his native Jamaican culture and some of the American music that was hitting his ears here in the States. And what Clive did with his love and his passion for music and the spirit of innovation was create a revolution that this year we're celebrating 50 years of. Does anybody know what that revolution is? It's hip hop. So we're gonna talk about the founding story of hip hop. So this is a little bit before my time. Y'all can look, I don't have, I probably don't have to say my age, but you can pick up on it. But before Clive, this is a lot of what the dance scene looked like. In the late 60s, early 70s, disco music was the thing. Soul and funk. I'm getting some yes, okay, we're tracking good. I'm retelling the story well. But when Clive came on the scene, there was a burgeoning culture going on in the streets. People were dancing a little bit different. People were interested in expressing themselves a little bit different. And Clive, with his experimentation on the turntables in 1973, threw a party at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. And what happened in this basement was the birth and the delivery of hip hop. What Clive was able to do was take the everyday, ordinary piece of technology that most people knew as the phonograph, or rather a stereo record player, and isolate certain sounds in the songs that today we think about as breakbeats, hook them up to two turntables to extend, sometimes it would be 15, 20 seconds of a disco song to create the bedrock of what we know now as hip-hop production. That led to rap. That led to new dance styles. That led to new art forms. And at the heart of this was Herc's ability to see something that no one else saw. When most people looked at the phonograph, they probably just saw a way to enjoy their favorite music softly at a respectable volume, not to wake up the kids, right? But what Herc and DJs like him saw was a pathway to create a revolution that nowadays has hip-hop in the last 10 years has turned into a multi-billion-dollar industry within the music industry, and it also has the largest share of music. So hip-hop is making up like 25% of all the recorded music industry, and it was born in a basement at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue 50 years ago. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Marcus, like, what does this have to do with me? Well, with some of the behaviors and some of the things that we're going to talk about today, maybe you won't launch a movement that's going to last 50 years and result in billions of dollars in a major cultural export out of the country. But with those same behaviors and with that same attitude and spirit of innovation, I think you'll be able to bring something special to your organization. And to underscore this point, Dewitt Jones was a National Geographic photographer, celebrated career of about 50 years, and he says this, that it's the lens that we choose that transforms the way that we look at things. So much of our time today is going to be, how can you, like Herc, look at someone within your organization, a problem, a resource, a lack of resources, and see wild potential. Hopefully what we'll be able to do is give you a new set of lenses, a new perspective to help you find those opportunities. So again, it all started with this 50-year revolution, billion-dollar industry within the music business. And we get this cultural revolution today. I'm a big hip-hop fan, so any opportunity I get to squeeze that in somewhere, I'm going to do it. Thanks for bearing with me on that one. So what our time today is going to be about seeking new perspectives. And I just want to throw a couple things at you. One, that creativity is a matter of perspective. Secondly, with the ability and leaning towards celebrating what's right in the world, we'll be able to see ordinary things as in extraordinary ways. And we'll be able to reframe problems into opportunities. We'll be able to see that there's always more than one right answer. Who says that that phonograph had to just be used for personal enjoyment and not a global revolution? And that's how we get some of the mindsets that lead us into transforming ordinary things into extraordinary opportunities. So a little bit about this process or this work that we call design thinking. It really just kind of rests on three things. One, finding that sweet spot between desirability, feasibility, and viability. So starting with the notion, is this something that would excite our end users? Many of you as nonprofit leaders are trying to solve really important problems. And how many times have you been in a situation where you start with the budget limitations or you start with the limitations of the team, but you never stop to think, do the people that we're trying to serve actually want this? We're actually talking about this over lunch, that a lot of times leaders of organizations like yourself find themselves either with materials or programs or things like that that were given out of great benevolence, but may not actually align with the needs of those who you're actually trying to serve. So this process, design thinking, this work of innovation tries to bring all of those lenses together to hopefully have maximum impact on your end users. So that's a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. And how we're going to spend our time is understanding the importance of nurturing creativity within your organization. I'm going to invite you to try out a few behaviors and techniques that you can take back to your organizations. And I'm going to share a couple stories with you about the power and the impact of this type of work to hopefully set you up with some inspiration to go back and try these things at home. So, okay, quick question for you. Approximately how many ideas do you think it takes to deliver 2 to 3 moderate commercial successes to market? Got 4,000, got a lot, got 200. I'll give you the answer. It's actually 4,000. And here's the idea behind this. Bob Sutton is one of the lecturers at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, and in his research, what he's found is that to get through 4,000 ideas in a study, there were 4,000 concept ideas, about 226 concepts were built, 12 concepts sold, and only about 2 to 3 of them could be considered a moderate commercial success. So what am I saying here? What's the through line here? That ideas have the biggest impact on your organization, actually putting something into the world that could actually be a breakthrough success for the people that you're trying to serve. So we're going to spend a lot of our time talking about today is ideas. And Jeremy Utley, who's a good friend of mine, we've coached together, we've worked together. He's got a great book out right now. It's crushing it on the charts, if you will. Underscores this point like this. He says that the single greatest determinant of the quality of your ideas is the quantity of your ideas. Now, I can tell you, working in music, and I'm sure y'all can relate to this, when the deadlines are on or when the pressures are on, it's like, hey, we need ideas now, and they need to be good. But I'm here to tell you, through changing my perspective and coaching and teaching others to change their perspective on this, it's not about having the right idea. It's actually about generating volume and seeing how many ideas can we get together throughout the team that's going to have the biggest impact on what you're actually able to do for those that you're serving. Linus Pauling, really smart dude, prolific American chemist, basically says it like this. He's one of few people who've won multiple Nobel Peace Prizes, and he's the only person who's ever won 2 solo Nobel Peace Prizes. And he just puts it like this. To get a good idea, you need a lot of ideas. So don't just take it from me. I don't have a Nobel Peace Prize. Linus Pauling does. That's what he says. So getting into the mode of being able to change how we think about this, a lot of times we think about ideas in the same way we think about going to the supermarket. We say, you know what, I'm gonna pop over to that creative person and I'm just gonna get an idea from him. I'm gonna hope that it's good, and then we'll just go to implementation right away. But another way to think about this, and one of the early shifts that I would invite y'all to think about this, is the ideas can be more like gardening than grocery shopping. And what that means is the biggest impact that we could have on the quality of ideas in our organization is to focus on the inputs that go into the ground. Does anybody ever planted a garden? I got any farmers in the house right now? So you kind of know, right? Okay, a little bit. You kind of know if you don't put anything in the ground, nothing's going to come up. So we want to take this, I want to take you through a couple exercises and behaviors that are going to actually help you up your input game, right? The things that we take in having the biggest impact over the quality of the things that we put out. So, Gloria, can I have you pop up here real quick? We're going to model a quick activity for you. Dan Klein, again, I spent a lot of time coaching and working at Stanford University. Dan Klein is one of the only faculty members that holds dual roles, one in the School of Theater and another in the Graduate School of Business. And he's got these really fun techniques that help CEOs and business leaders kind of get out of their shell a little bit and experience what I'm going to invite Gloria into. And it's called Oh Good. So what we're going to do, Gloria, I am going to receive from you. I want you to think about something undesirable in your mind, okay? It could be sweaty socks. It could be lint from under the couch. And I want you to present that to me as a gift. And we're going to focus on this oh good phrase, and I'll model for you a little bit of a behavior that'll help us up our input game as far as ideas go. So.
I have a dirty sponge for you, Marcus.
Oh, good. A dirty sponge from Gloria. That's great because I've got this sneaker collection at home. And what I'm going to be able to do now is use that sponge to clean off some of my favorite sneakers and get them fresh for an outing this weekend. Thank you so much for that dirty sponge. Okay, Gloria, I'm going to give you one now. I have for you this diaper that has been used by my youngest son, Judah.
Oh, good. I am going to take it and plant it in the garden to make compost so our tomatoes can grow.
I love that, right? Yeah. Hey, a round of applause for Gloria, and thank you for participating in that fun exercise. I remember when I first came across this one. Oh, good, just stuck in my mind, and I want to ground this in a bit of experience. How many of you have been in a brainstorm where you've gotten an idea that felt like a dirty diaper? It's a pretty common experience. Or how many of you have been in a meeting where you gave an idea that you thought was a golden egg, but it were received as a dirty diaper? Probably even more. And we all kind of know how damaging the effects of that is. But in modeling that behavior, what we've just been able to do, and what I got a chance to experience one more time, and hopefully what Gloria got the chance to experience, is openness. By being open and inviting more inputs, we actually up that idea funnel that we referenced earlier to be able to receive more from our teams. We get people going, they're more engaged, and the ideas flow a whole lot easier. What we also experience in activities and behaviors like that is not blocking. A lot of times the wildest ideas that I've ever come across have come from something that just seems so random. were you paying attention in this brainstorm? How did you come up with that? But instead of thinking, what does this idea make me think? And instead thinking, what does this idea make me think of? We've gotten to some of the best music videos I've ever been a part of producing. We've launched some of the best campaigns for fundraising within coffee that I've ever been a part of. So just want to leave you all with that quick behavior that just by hearing ideas and thinking first, oh good, especially with the bad ones, you can unlock a lot of potential within yourself and within your organization to help you start to fill up that 4,000 idea funnel that you got there. So thanks again, Gloria. All right, so I want to give another story to underscore this. We'll take you back into time. The year is 2004, right? There's this guy on Jeopardy. His name is Ken Jennings. And this, I got some laughs, okay. This brother's on a roll. He's got about $2.5 million of winnings, and he's just been crushing Jeopardy, unlike anything that we've ever seen before. But then something happens. He gets this question. Now, if you don't know where this is going, I want you to legitimately sit with this. And Eric Johnson, a psychologist from Columbia University, unpacks this moment by saying this. Jennings, this guy who's been on this roll, he's been crushing it, sees this prompt, and he starts to think to himself, Christmas, Salvation Army. Those things start to pop into his mind, and he can't get it out of his head. He can't get past that first notion of Christmas, employees, and things like that. And I see some smiles, I see some head nods, and it probably seems super obvious to you. But Ken was locked into the moment, and he couldn't get past it. Another contestant, Nancy Zerg, went in another direction. And y'all can probably guess what it was. She guessed H&R Block. And she won. And Alex Trebek went on to call her the giant killer. I'm sure Ken Jennings was really crushed. But there was a phenomenon that happened to Ken, and it usually happens to us as business leaders, and it's that he just got stuck in a mental groove. He couldn't get past that first notion. He couldn't get past that first idea. And that's how many of us show up to our brainstorms or to problems that we think that we have. We get stuck in that first thing. We compare, oh, this worked last time, so let's just go ahead and shortcut right through all the jargon, all the talk, save me another 30 minutes on this brainstorm so I can get to lunch a little bit earlier. And we've probably all experienced the results, right? A campaign that doesn't go over so well, an idea that kind of fails or fails to make it past the production cycle or what have you. And there's another name for this. It's called the Einstellung effect. And basically what that is, it's a phenomenon that occurs when designers or business leaders are so used to approaching problems the same way that we overlook better ways, right? I got a wow on that one, right? It's a pretty common thing that we all experience. And so Sigmund Freud will underscore it like this. He says, when inspiration does not come, I go halfway to meet it. Again, re-establishing that notion that we have to get, if we want to get to breakthrough solutions or innovative things brought into the world for the people that we're trying to serve, we have to put a huge emphasis on stuffing that top of the funnel to up our idea quotient. Another way to think about this, Morton Fries Oliveira says that the brain is incapable of producing new material from scratch. That's why we find ourselves in those ruts of, oh, this worked in the past, surely it'll work again. But a hack to get around that, again, let's treat ideas like a garden and not so much like the supermarket. Expose ourselves to more inputs to up our idea quotient. And hopefully we'll be able to take you through a couple of behaviors that'll help you with that today. So again, to provoke creative thinking, what I want to invite you to do is to expose yourself to new and unexpected things on the regular. And usually this is a hack or a cheat code that we usually just leave to the artists, right? Or to the creative types. You know, think about that sister-in-law that you have, or that auntie figure that you love to have your kids around, who's always going to concerts, who's always reading new books. You might be thinking, well, that works for you, but me, I got things to do. Well, I want to invite you into this practice of watching new movies, exposing yourself to new ideas, saying, oh, good, when you get that dirty diaper within your organization, just to be able to expose yourself to new things so that not only you, but those in your organizations will be able to come up with more ideas when the problems and the solutions are needed. And the first one of those behaviors is a wonder wander. And so what a wonder wander is, it's usually just a literal practice of inviting a variety of input to inspire you from your surroundings. And this is one of the first habits for fueling creative work. So especially within COVID, leading a lot of Zoom programs and things like this, will work with executives and have them experience a problem or encounter a problem. What we'll tell them is, hey, 30 minutes, camera off. Go outside, just experience your environment, look around and see, just like in that oh good exercise, what does this make me think of? I remember one time we were getting ready to launch a coffee and I invited my team, hey, everybody, wonder wander time. Let's get off the screens. We're going to go outside. I took a walk through my neighborhood and there's a school, there was a park in the neighborhood. And I kept that problem. How do we frame this coffee? How do we bring a coffee to our youthful, playful audience in the music scenario who is not used to getting coffee from us? And I looked at this playground and I said to myself, what does that playground have to do with coffee? How can that inspire a new idea? And it came to me, oh, recess. Coffee is like recess in the morning. And this can be a whole playful thing. We can launch this campaign. We're asking people, what's your recess? And, we can decorate the cups that way. We can invite people to do those things. And it may sound like I got a laugh over here, right? When I say it, it sounds like a pretty good idea. But it didn't just come from scratch. It came from that commitment to getting outside, being inspired by my environment, holding that problem at the front of my mind and asking, what does this playground have to do with coffee? And you can do the same thing. Maybe it's getting outside and saying, okay, my son's downstairs dribbling that basketball in the house and I've been asking him not to do that. Well, instead of barking at him, maybe what you can say is, well, what does that basketball have to do with my problem? Maybe it's the fact that referees wear striped white and black jerseys. Maybe it's something about the shot clock. Maybe it's something about how fun colors inspire motion and things like that. How can you take that raw material and make it an oh good moment that could help you rethink your problems? Maybe it's the Amazon truck. Now listen, I know we're in Atlanta and people probably got different thoughts about Amazon and things like that, but instead of thinking, what do I think about this thing? Maybe ask yourself, what does it make me think of? Right? When I think of Amazon, I think about those drones. I think about those pickup lockers, right? I think about how good it feels to get something in a short window of time. Maybe that could inspire you when you think about the people that you're designing for. So again, I just want to underscore this by saying, instead of asking, what do I think of this, ask, what does this make me think of? And you may find yourself thinking, all right, Marcus, well, I'm going to be well on my way of increasing these inputs, but at some point, I'm probably just going to kind of get tired. But I want to give you another piece of information. Lucas and Norgan did this study that basically says that we consistently find that people expect their creativity to decline over time. And basically what we found is that people's creativity actually remains constant or improved across an ideation session. So that's just something to look out for as you find yourself stretching and reaching for all these different ideas and doing all this oh good and saying, all right, enough, the ideas aren't going to get better. There's actually something great just beyond what we call that creative cliff. And that brings me to the second idea or the second behavior that I'd like to invite you to incorporate into your practice. And it's just an idea quota. And basically what this looks like is just setting a goal for yourself. Hey, every day for the next 6 weeks, I'm just going to come up with 10 ideas. Something simple, just a journal. A good story about this, Perry Claiborne, who's another one of the directors of the D School at Stanford, had a problem within Patagonia where sales were getting bad and they just needed to just rely on what was working. He made a comment to the design team, and that came back with them getting ready to, in the spring, launch out an all-black collection. If you know anything about Patagonia, their whole thing is about color, and it's getting ready to be spring. Who wants all black clothes in the spring? But what Perry realized in that moment was something that I want to invite y'all to be able to get out in front of, and it's that usually when the problems come, it's too late to go looking for ideas, right? But if we set a personal goal and maybe establish that throughout our organizations of having something like an idea quota, usually when we run into those types of moments, we can just go through the Rolodex, grab some great ideas, try some things, and get further in solving our problems. So with that, again, I know some of this stuff might be like, okay, you're kind of all over the place with this. But basically, another way to kind of think about this is one of the biggest threats to our ideas is not the things that we add or the behaviors that we add. A lot of times it can just be removing some of the obstacles that we have. So you might be like, Marcus, a wonder wander, an idea quota. I don't have time for that. Well, instead of thinking about this as something new that you have to add to your busy day, actually think about this in terms of, well, what can I remove from my day to actually make space for these types of things? And a quick way to think about that is a lot of times for me, I know I make this face when I'm looking at my calendar. There's way too many meetings, there's way too many engagements and things like that. But if you want to up your idea quota and make your organization more innovative, another behavior that you can incorporate into your practice is what's called an account block. Just, maybe after this session, open up your calendar and say, all right, I'm going to give myself 2 hours a week to spend on a wonder wander or practicing an idea quota. Maybe invite a friend into that space. Like, hey, can you meet me, Jose, at 6:15? I just want to give some time dedicated to ideation and upping my game, upping my practice. And you'll be surprised to see how that can help you get more of those seeds in the ground for your ideation habit. So again, just underscoring this idea a bit, that genius really is, as you get into this notion or this behavior, whatever behavior you pick, and you see all these ideas floating around, one thing that I want to invite you to keep in mind is that function and variation are also a part of the volume. Variation is going to have a lot to do with the ideas that you could find yourself encountering, whether it's on your own or within your organization. And basically what that looks like is it's going to be this distribution of ideas. There's going to be some really goofy stuff. If you commit to coming up with 10 ideas for 6 weeks, you're going to be surprised what you're going to see on that paper. But don't get thrown off by that, because here's what ends up happening. If you try to say, next time I speak up in a meeting, I only want the good stuff to come out, this is what you're going to end up doing. You're going to end up with a whole bunch of ordinary, right? And that's not going to help us get to breakthrough innovations or solutions for the people that we serve. But if you embrace goofy, that's actually going to keep you on that bell curve of being able to see that, hey, that inviting people to sing in the shower on TikTok sounded pretty goofy, but it also got me on the other end of being able to find some pretty genius stuff. And it'll change the way you listen for things, whether it's coming from yourself or within your organization. All right, well, I know I'm getting the time call here, so I'll just move you guys quickly through to a story of how this actually took place in a real scenario that'll hopefully give you some inspiration to try out some of these new behaviors. So we were working with one of the leading healthcare providers, and they had this problem. How might we support new moms in their journey? So post-pandemic, and I want to make a call to sensitivity. My wife's pregnant right now, so I know how real these things can be. So we'll try to deal with this subject matter a little bit, with some care. So basically, depression, postpartum, anxiety, all those things are way up after the pandemic, and these are some things that this healthcare provider was looking to solve for. So they had their user in mind. We won't spend too much time on that. But what ended up happening was, with this prompt and with some of these behaviors that we talked about being embraced throughout the organization, one brave soul in a brainstorming meeting came up with this. Mary Poppins, right? Something pretty plain, pretty simple, probably sounds pretty goofy, but what that led to was a pretty extraordinary platform that gave moms sort of drop-in service. They actually ended up calling it something like Mom Pop-ins, which were kind of like a concierge drop-in doula service for new moms on their journey to help them feel like failure is not so much an option, take some of the pressure off, give them some of the support that they need. This is an award-winning innovation. It got through to being fully funded, and this healthcare provider has completely changed things for the people that they're serving. So these are the types of things that we can see in our organizations by committing to embracing and nurturing creativity and ideas within our organization. So it's a little bit of a testimonial. I'll be able to send some of this out after our time a little bit later. But as we are getting to time, and you're probably thinking like, all right, Marcus, you just threw a lot at me. Where do I go from here? The best way to do it is to just do it. You can take a picture of this, whatever you call back to on it, go back and try it in your organizations. Try the Wonder Wander. Keep your problem at the front of your mind. Go out, get inspired by your environment. Set an idea quota for yourself. 10 ideas a day. You name the time, you name the span, and invite other people in your organizations to have an idea quota as well. Create an encounter block. Protect this time. Weaponize your calendar. Make space in your calendar for ideas. And as you start to see all these ideas coming in your organization, just like the Mary Poppins thing, embrace the goofy, because that actually might be your fast track to genius. All right, I know they came at you pretty quickly, lots of information, a lot of behavioral changes. Are there any questions?
I would love to grab if there's anyone online first, maybe. How do you gather support from leadership on creative ideas that might be different than the normal they are used to?
Yeah, so I think what I hear in that is that sounds pretty good, but I may not be the person setting the meeting agenda. So how can I get leadership to get on board with this? If you find yourself in that position, one thing that I've done is really just kind of starting with gathering support maybe horizontally. So maybe just say, hey, I want to brainstorm with you, Gloria, and let's just get some shots up. Let's just get this thing out. We'll good each other, see how our ideas go, see how far we can get just with those ideas, and maybe we can come into the brainstorm prepared with some things. And you'll be pretty surprised if you're not controlling the meeting and the person who is says, okay, let me hear some ideas, and y'all have kind of ran that experiment one-on-one, and they're like, wait. Where did all of this come from? Like, what did y'all have for breakfast this morning? Well, then you can just say, oh, well, let me tell you about this exercise we did called Oh Good, and maybe we'll teach it to you, and you can lead the next meeting that way. Could be one way to approach that if the power dynamic is off a little bit.
What's the best tool to capture them, like digitally, or if there's not a note taker involved? And the second one is, when you do hear of a bad idea or a goofy idea, how do you combat like feelings of people not being, like their ideas not being taken into consideration?
Yeah.
So the question was the best tool to capture ideas, and then what happens if someone has a goofy idea? How do you take that into consideration?
Yeah, I've run sessions like this in person and online, and I'll tell you, if you could do it in person, get you some Post-its and get you some Sharpies. It is a great equalizer by throwing a prompt at people, saying how might we, and then introduce the problem, allowing like maybe even just 45 seconds of introverted brainstorming time can really help. Some of the best ideas are held by introverts who just don't like speaking over people in meetings. And the Post-its, I have found, do a great job at leveling the playing field, getting past some of those inherent power dynamics. And also, if you brainstorm for 30 minutes and you see all these Post-its, and we want to encourage this idea of, hey, it takes 4,000 to change the world. At the end of a brainstorm, I love just pointing back to people and telling them, look at this. Look at all this material we just came up with. Look at us, right? And then online, something simple like Google Docs and just bulleting. sometimes I'll just create sections for people's names, and I'll just say, all right, everybody, introvert brainstorm, pick one thing that you liked, and then we'll just go through and good everything and just see how far we get. So.
Sorry, really quickly for the sharing of it, the things that we combo whiteboard, like Canva, like, you can create a whiteboard with post-its on there, and then.
Oh, yeah.
Canva has a whiteboard resource. Yep. And unfortunately, we are out of time. I'm so sorry, but Marcus will probably be here a few more minutes if y'all have other questions. Thank you so much, Marcus, for sharing concepts of design thinking with us today. Let's thank Marcus.
Yeah. And I'll say, because I know how congested things got last time, if you want to just pull out your phone and scan this QR code, I can send you a credit roll of some ideas and some of the studies that I cited, and maybe we can support each other on an idea quota over the next couple of weeks. So if you scan that, that's going to be the easiest way, but I'll also get out of the way for the next person.
No, you are it. You are it. We are back at main stage, so you can approach Marcus up front. Ask him a question, and if not, transition to main stage.
Yeah, or join this group.
Or join the group.
We can have a little bit of community there. So.
Thank you.